until finally she wound up in a children's home. At 16, she began training as a nurse. She moved into a nurse's home where the regime was strict. It was the 60s. Expresso bars had reached Glasgow, and all the girls were trotting around in short skirts and white lipstick. But not Mum. To go out at all, a late pass was needed, and that only gave you until 10 o'clock. One Monday night, she got a pass so that she could go Highland dancing with a girlfriend of hers. But when they got to the venue, the place was closed. That was when the adrenaline kicked in. Why shouldn't they take themselves off to the dance hall proper, like any other teenagers? So that's what they did. A man asked Mum to dance, and that was my father. He played in the band there, and she thought he was a superstar. She was only 16 after all, and when it got late, and there was a danger of missing the bus, he and his friend offered to drive them back in his car. Well, she thought that was unbelievably exciting. After that, they met any time she wasn't on duty. When she turned 17, they married on the 31st of January, 1964, in a Glasgow registry office. No guests, no white dress for her, and nothing doing afterwards. Not even a drink. His father, who worked as a butcher for Dewhurst, was a church elder. Kissing, cuddling, any kind of affection was strictly forbidden. My mum has a vivid memory of a day about 2 weeks after she married. Her mother-in-law took Mum into another room, and then she asked Mum if she was expecting a baby. "No, I'm not," said Mum, a bit put out. "Then why did you go and get married?" asked her mother-in-law. I've often asked Mum this question myself. I'm glad I'm here, obviously, but my father was such a bastard that it's hard not to wonder why she stayed with him. Her answer is always the same. He wanted to get married, and I thought it would be nice to have my own home and my own children. 10 months later, my sister Diane came along, and Dad got the job at a children's home in Bridge of Weir. They were given a bungalow on the premises, and there was a swimming pool in the grounds. According to Mum, it was lovely. Then it started, the drinking and the temper. He would slap her about, and not having had any other experience with men, she assumed that this was what every woman had to put up with. Next was the job in Port Glasgow. We got a nice council house, but Dad was all over the place. Fed up, he used to call it, and the womanising got steadily worse. By now, Mum was pregnant with my brother Ronnie. One morning, Dad came home and announced that his car had been stolen. Of course it was complete bollocks. What had actually happened was he'd been with a woman, had a few drinks, and knocked down an old man in what amounted to be hit and run. It wasn't long before the police found out, and it was all over the papers. Port Glasgow wasn't a very big place, and it was certainly too small for us now. We had to leave, literally overnight. Diane was toddling, I was in a pushchair, and Mum was pregnant. But did he care? No, he didn't. It was straight on the train to Birmingham, and who knows why. It could just as easily have been Newcastle or Liverpool. We spent the night at New Street Station, waiting for the sun to come up so Dad could walk the streets looking for somewhere to live. We found a room in a shared house. Amazingly, Dad only got probation and a fine for the hit and run, and he soon picked up a job as a welder. The room was horrible, or so Mum tells me. We shared a kitchen, in fact a cooker in the hall, and a bathroom with another family. Meanwhile, Dad joined an Irish band, and all the usual kinds of women were soon hanging on to his every word. If you went out on a Friday night, you were lucky if you saw him again before Sunday. Needless to say, the welding soon went by the way. He was convinced that he was going to be a rock and roll star. We'd spent time with him going from market to market looking for music equipment. There would be looking at these Fender Stratocasters, the fucking dog's bollocks of the music world, and all our clothes were from jumble sales. How did he fund the shopping habit? Loan sharks mostly. His debts still come back to haunt me now, because our names are the same. I occasionally get investigated by companies trying to recoup the cash he owes them. On birthdays, I used to get a £3.99 Airfix model kit from somewhere like the Rag Market, which was Birmingham's version of the Barras. There'd be half of it missing, or the cardboard box it came in would be so wet and soggy that you wouldn't have wiped your ass with it. Christmas was terrible. When we were older, Mum always used to work in a nursing home, doing as much double time as she could, sometimes not even coming home on Christmas Day. I used to dread Christmas. And then the bailiffs would show up. We'd be evicted. Dad's van would be loaded up and would be off to the nearest refuge, or round to the social services pleading homelessness. As a teenager, I used to be ashamed of some of the places we lived, the ones that are riddled with damp, with nails exposed everywhere, the ones that had been left like pigsties by other families. And every time he got violent, any ornament, any present we'd bought for Mum, anything nice, would be smashed, simply because it belonged to her. Academically, we were never in one place long enough to develop any kind of attention span, and Dad was hardly the kind of man to insist on you doing your homework. Only Puss did homework, the same way only Puss went into catering. No, he was much more interested in trying to turn us into a country version of the Osmonds. Diane, Ronnie, and Yvonne, my younger sister, all sing and play musical instruments. They didn't really have any choice about that. Dad was obsessed. But I never went along with his plan. That's not to say I wasn't just as scared of him as they were. My tactic was to keep my head down and my nose clean. I never drank or smoked, and when I was asked to lug his bloody gear about the place, I just got on with it. It's ironic, really, that people think of me as so forceful and argumentative, because that's the precise opposite of how I was as a kid. Until I was big enough to take him on in a fight, I wouldn't have said boo to a goose. His favourite punishment was the belt. You'd get whacked on the back of the legs for something that was as innocent as going to the fridge and drinking his Coke. I say whacked. The truth is, I would get completely fucked over for that sort of thing. It wasn't so much the Coke he was bothered about, as the fact that he wouldn't have a mixer for his precious Bacardi. Yvonne was born in Birmingham. One night when Mum was 6 months pregnant, a neighbour had to call the police as Dad was dishing out some domestic violence on Mum. Mum was taken to hospital and ended up signing consent forms for the three of us to be taken into a children's home for 10 days. She visited us every day. Then Dad was released and he came back home. Next stop was Daventry, where we had quite a nice council house. Then we were off again, to Margate, where, for a time, we lived in a caravan. That was easily the worst place I've ever lived in. Horrendous. We didn't even have enough money for the gas bottle to keep the place warm. We were saved by the council, who put us up in a bed and breakfast. Then it was back to Scotland again, followed by another stint in Birmingham, and then on to Stratford-upon-Avon. But Dad couldn't settle. Off he'd go. Off to France, to America. He never sent money home. It was up to Mum to earn our keep. When he came back from abroad, we moved to Banbury, where he was going to run a newsagent shop. We lived above the shop, and the guy who owned it was lovely. This was Dad's big chance to get it right. But no, Dad was on the fiddle. The owner found out, and we were out in our ear again. So then it was back up to Scotland, Glasgow. Dad had heard the country and western scene was better up there. But I was a teenager by now, and I decided not to go. The council gave Diane and me a flat, so we stayed put. I was doing a catering course at college, sponsored by the local round table. But in any case, I don't think Dad wanted either of us around. He just couldn't control Diane the way he controlled Mum, and that left him feeling frustrated because, in the old days, she'd sung with him, being dragged around all the seedy clubs. As for me, I was public enemy number one. Up in Glasgow, Mum would have to sneak out of the flat if she wanted to ring me. I had crossed the line when I was 15. I was going out with a girl called Stephanie, and one night I came back late. "Get your stuff out of my house and go and live with her," he said. "I'm 16 next week," I said. "I can go where I like." I'd already been given some kind of big radio for the upcoming birthday, and he threw it at me from the top of the stairs. "I can't believe you've done that," I said. "You know damn well that Mum bought it for me." I knew she'd got it on hire purchase, which was costing her £8 a month. I couldn't bear it. "I'd rather he did that to me than to something that hasn't even been paid for," I said. At that, he came storming down the stairs. At first, I stood my ground. Then I saw the look in his eyes, and I bolted. For the first time, I felt he really might kill me. I'd always known that he was a sadistic bastard. But I saw something different in his eyes that day, a glint that chilled me. There was nothing there. It was a kind of madness. Once Diane and I were out of the way, he turned his attention to whoever else was available. Ronnie was his pal, mostly, so now it was Yvonne's turn to take the sort of treatment that I had suffered previously. By that time, I was already trying to make headway as a cook, busting my nuts in the kitchen, and it was unimaginably painful hearing the stuff from Mum, her voice down the telephone. Yvonne was going under. Meanwhile, Mum was still getting knocked about. She was working in my Uncle Ronnie's shop in Port Glasgow, and she'd come in early morning with bruised